Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday, September the 2nd. We got a lot of stuff to go over today, and we'll be going over that. And it's a lot of stuff that I know it's on the minds of lots and lots and lots of West Virginians. But before we get there, I want all those West Virginians to stand with me on just this. We've got 16 more people that have died in West Virginia. We've got 230 total deaths now in West Virginia. You know, I know we're interested in football and going back to school, and I know we're interested in, how we're progressing on all the wireless sites that, that are going to give our kids the ability to get online and at least be able to drive or some way get to those sites. And we've even said, we'll transport kids back and forth as best we possibly can. And so there's so many different things that are out there and everything. And we'll get to that in just a second. But I want you to dial in and just think in prayer for these 230 people. The 215th death was a 72-year-old female from Monroe County. The 216th death, a 65-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 217th death was an 84-year-old male from Kanawha County. The 218th death was a 65-year-old female from Logan County. And the 219th death was a 62-year-old female from Logan County. The 220th death, an 82-year-old male from Logan County. The 221st death, a 41-year-old female from Mingo County. The 222nd death, a 91-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 223rd death, an 88-year-old female from Kanawha County. The 224th death, an 83-year-old female from Taylor County. The 225th death, an 84-year-old female from Taylor County. The 226th death, a 72-year-old male from Ohio County. The 227th death, a 67-year-old female from Logan County. The 228th death, a female from Nicholas County. The 229th death, a 73-year-old female from Harrison County. And the 230th death, an 88-year-old male from Jackson County. Now I pray for all these, for all West Virginians and all of our nation. I say this all the time, but 230 great West Virginians is a crying shame. And I hate it, and I hope and pray that you'll keep them in your thoughts and prayers as Kathy and I will, and we'll promise to do that. They're not statistics. They're people. They're loved ones. They're friends. And so please, please, always remember them. It's amazing when you just think about just this, and I call and I tell you over and over, West Virginia, what the miracle you are. And what the miracle that you've done by being that state that is surrounded all the way around by border states with unbelievably high numbers compared to you. A state that doesn't have an ocean to block this disease or whatever it may be. A state that's within a rock's throw. You're not Wyoming or South Dakota. You're West Virginia, where 2/3 of the population of this country lives within a rock's throw of you. And yet, and remember this statistic, you have just slightly over 1,000th of the deaths that this nation has. In just a few minutes, I'm going to tell you that today celebrates the end of World War II. I'm going to tell you, I think that we lost in World War II, and all of us know how tragic and how difficult and how unbelievable the sacrifice was, that we lost 5,000 plus soldiers. Now, We have almost lost half as many in this country with this pandemic as we did in World War II. Now just think about that just a second. We've lost 3.5 times as many people as we lost, I think, in 13 years of war in Vietnam. 3.5 times as many people. You know, we've lost 60 times as many people as we lost in 9/11 in this country. So absolutely, anybody that's sitting out there on the sidelines that says, oh, this thing is not real and it's just like the flu and everything else, they've been wrong. You know, so anyway, please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. As far as our numbers in the last 24 hours, we had 135 positive cases. Our daily positive number today is at 4.93. That's terrible. Our cumulative positive has grown from 2.36 to 2.41. It's still good, but 4.93 on a daily number is no good. Our active cases are at 2,146. That's up from Monday and now is a record high. Our recovered cases are 8,266. That's pretty good. Our hospitalizations are at 146, up from 139. We've still got a lot of capacity, but we're going the wrong way. You know, Monroe County's in the red. Mingo, Fayette, Mon County, Kanawha County, and Logan County are all in the orange. Now get this. Remember when we were talking about our RT number and we said that I think it got as low as 0.85 and we were tied for third best in the country, you know, with the lowest rate in the country? How many days ago was that? A week? You know, maybe 10 days ago? Surely not very many days ago. Today, our RT number is at 1.22, and we are the third worst in the country today. So absolutely, we are now tied for the third highest RT number, and we want that number to be the lowest. Now, I want to talk to you just a second about just a conversation that I had with a gentleman before I got here today. He said to me, you know, without any question, this has got to be the worst time in the world to be the governor. And I want to tell you this. I mean, I won't deny that almost no matter what you do, you're dadgummed if you do and dadgummed if you don't. And no matter what you do, there's repercussions on both sides of the fence. But I want to tell you that it is not the worst time to be your governor. It is a time of honor. And I think that everyone that I'm talking to knows that from day one, I have given you every single thing in my power to try to keep you the safest and to try to look after you and guide you in a way of leadership that would absolutely provide just that. I'm going to continue to do that because you have given me that honor to do just that. Now, I have been battle tested in my life, and I used to have brown hair, and I used to be skinny, and absolutely I have done lots of stuff. And I've been in pressure-packed situations, and that's what this is right here. It's no more different than many things I've already been through. It's tragic beyond belief, there's no question. And you've got to make the right moves on the chessboard all the time. We're trying to do that in every way we possibly can, while making adjustments along the way that are the right adjustments. When we miss something, like we missed the band situation, and it didn't come to me, and we had to adjust. We didn't adjust because people were yelling and screaming in the wilderness. We adjusted because it was the right thing to do for those kids. Now, along the way right now, we came up with another adjustment just the other day. We said just the other day, here's what we'd do. You know, in an effort, because we had this week before before the school started, we wanted to do something that would benefit all from the standpoint of finding additional medical information. We thought that this was the very best move for our schools, to give them the opportunity for our kids to go and compete, and absolutely a way that we could learn so much more. We turned that down, and it probably was not a good move, because it would have given us more information. Now, we've got to just move forward. As we move forward and everything, we will absolutely continue to try to adjust and make every right move that we can possibly make. I've got to say just this too. If we would have been able to have tested all these folks, a great majority, if not all, which we would have hoped for, that would have come back in the negative, that would have helped all these counties from the standpoint of not only getting back to school, but their numbers. It would have helped them to get them into colors that they could absolutely go ahead with competition. So you see, at the end of the day, not only would it have given us medical information, not only if we found 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 or whatever it may be, whether they be kids or coaches or whatever they may be, we could have then isolated them, and then we could have kept them from spreading this to grandparents or their teammates or whatever. It was a real opportunity to just do that. Now, on the other hand, I've heard these things. Well, what if you got a false positive? Well, if we'd have gotten a positive, we would have retested that child or retested that coach. That's what we would have done. And everybody needs to know that move on the chessboard was a move to try to help enable us to get back to school in as safe a way as we possibly can, and to push down, to motivate and help push down these colors of orange or red or whatever it may be. We missed a real opportunity there. But I want everyone to know just this. You know, football and volleyball and soccer and everything, sports are all important. They're never, ever, ever as important as school. There's no way. You know, I'm a coach, and I love athletics, and I love our kids in every way. But every single player on my team, every player hears this all the time. You know, it's hard to imagine this. It's hard to believe this. I've coached at Greenbrier East now going on 21 years. Do you know, I've never cut a kid from the team, never. And I've coached the boys and girls both. In fact, I coached them at the same time. In addition to that, the thing that I'm probably the most proud of all, I have never, ever had a kid become grade ineligible. Never. And you know why? Because I know first and foremost, way more importantly than sports, is school. School. Your education. School. That's the most important. Sports will end for all of us at some point in time. They ended for Michael Jordan. Probably the best athlete maybe we've ever seen. They ended for Michael Jordan. Now, sports will end for you, whether it be maybe in middle school, it may be in high school, it may have even been prior to that, but it will end for all of us. And then we'll fall back on one thing, the very one thing that nobody can take away from you, and that's your education. Now, how are we going to get an education if we can't get back in school? You know, the bottom line is just one thing, and I get it through to my very soul. We have to make our schools and our kids and our people, whether it be our teachers or our service personnel, as safe as they can possibly be, and we get back to school. The whole bottom line has nothing to do with really anything but one thing, and that is September the 8th, we're trying to go back to school, and we're trying to educate our kids. Now, all the other stuff is just partially around the plate. That's all there is to it. You know, when you go in a fancy restaurant or whatever like that, you know, you got your food, but there's this little piece of green stuff around your plate. Well, all this other stuff, whether it be, you know, a football game or a volleyball game, is just a partially. It's just a little stuff. The meat and potatoes are what absolutely preserve you and keep you going. That's your education. So, we're going to keep on doing the right thing. We're not going to listen to all the political rhetoric and the rumbles in the jungle. We're going to continue to do the right thing, and I promise you to God above that that's what I'm going to do. Now, moving forward, we've got a situation that just happened. We met with all the bars, or met with the people representing the bars in Mon County. We talked to them. We told them what they had to do. We told them of social distancing and wearing masks and not getting overcrowded and all of that. You know, in addition, we even talked to them about blocking off a street and then doing outside stuff. They didn't want to do that and everything else. And lo and behold, what do? Boom, right off the get-go. Right just off the get-go, boom. What do? We've got people standing on top of people. We've got no mask. We've got absolute servers without mask on and everything else. The bars are closed. 4 o'clock today, the bars are closed in Mon County indefinitely, and we'll get to that later on. We've already got Mon County in the orange. We cannot have this go on. That's all there is to it, and that's what we're going to do. Now, as far as our long-term care facilities, there's 34 outbreaks in our long-term care facilities right now. As far as our churches, there's 4 outbreaks in our churches, and Wayne County is one of the new ones, or the new one, Monroe, Cabell, and Wyoming counties. As far as corrections, we have 142 positives at Mount Olive now, 880 negatives. There are 18 staff cases that are positive at Mount Olive. At South Central Jail, there are 8 active cases now and 2 staff. You know, the National Guard is doing great, you know, at sanitizing both facilities and all that. You know, as far as our schools, and this information today is the first day that this information is now flowing to me. But we have school outbreaks in schools in Mason County at Point Pleasant Primary School. 2 teachers there have tested positive. School opening has been postponed there till September the 17th. In Mingo County, at Mingo Central, we have 5 staff that have tested positive. And in Mon County, 29 cases from 12 fraternities and sororities are on the campus that have tested positive. So that information just flowed to me today for the first time. I want to go back to just this and tell you, you know, if you could pull up the map, Jordan, that shows the number of counties that are in the orange and red and green right now and yellow. If you'd pull that up just real quick, I want to just kind of go over this real quick with you, but you can see there's Mon, Kanawha, Fayette, Logan, and Mingo County that are in the orange and Monroe in the red. I want to tell you where we're close. Cabell County is close to drifting in there. Hardy County is close. And Cabell's at 963 and Hardy's at 933. You're really close to drifting in there. You've got to really tighten down in what you're doing there. And Raleigh County it's Putnam County is also close at 9.11. In addition to that, Mercer County is teetering on drifting into orange too. So we got to, you know, I just wanted to bring you up to date. You know, I know you can watch it yourselves, but I'm telling everybody in the county to watch what you're doing. You know, Another thing that's been brought to our attention is what are we going to do with WVU? What are we going to do up there, from the standpoint of making WVU its own community? But here's the problem with that. I talked to a coach today, and it was a great conversation, a great young man and everything, doing a wonderful job, right down here at South Charleston. He deals with all the situations that we know are difficult. From the standpoint, now just stay with me just one second. From the standpoint of at-risk kids and everything, we all have that, whether it be in Greenbrier County or it be in Kanawha County or wherever it may be. But if you're looking at an at-risk kid, sports, we know that sports give those kids, some kids, that's the bond with a coach, and they're there every day. That's the bond and commitment and discipline that drives those kids on to greatness in lots of ways that we'd lose them. We know that. And absolutely a fantastic conversation and everything with that kid or with that young coach. Well, he's 40 years old. He's not super young, but coach, you're a lot younger than me. But nevertheless, we're constantly working on, and there's a lot of things that going into advisement on how we can some way play and how we can't and everything. And we're going to continue to keep an open mind and open book on trying to figure out what we can do. Now, let me go back to just what I just said about WVU. That coach that I spoke of this morning said, well, we've got, West Virginia State, we've got, the University of Charleston. We've got different colleges here, and we've got people that come from a lot of different walks of life, and they're here, and they're influencing our numbers. Well, so we have people in Mon County that are saying West Virginia should be their own entity because they're influencing our numbers. And our health experts and all the experts around, whether it be the National Guard or Department of Ed or whatever, all of them are working that nonstop. And so in all of this, because there is no set playbook, we have to make adjustments and we have to pivot. We don't do that because somebody's screaming out in the wilderness. We do that because of more and more and more knowledge that absolutely we learn more and more about this terrible killer. Now in Mon County today, we know that there's 104 positive cases, 111. And 104 of them are young people, in an age group from, I think, 10 to 29 or something like that. And we're trying to get our arms around that in a better way and look at just the possibilities of what to do. The problem with isolating a WVU, even though it is a big and wonderful, wonderful entity in our state, is just this. Those kids go everywhere in the community. And that is community spread, and it goes everywhere. And I know WVU's doing a great job. Mon County's doing a great job. They are. I mean, for crying out loud, they're doing great work. And so it is something that we're constantly looking at, and we're going to continue to try to do so. But the problem that we can absolutely identify and lay our hands on right real quick are the bars and parties that are going on in a sorority or a fraternity house, or a private facility. Kids, you have got to listen to me. Please listen to your president, Gordon Gee. Please, kids, we have got to bear down here. You are absolutely running the risk of killing somebody. This is not play toy stuff. People are dying. That's all there is to it. Now, you may sit back and say, well, I went to visit my granddaddy, and my granddaddy sees my mom every day, and my granddaddy is just doing great and everything, and that's a test. Well, it's not the test. It's not the test. What is the test is just this. If your granddaddy were to fall sick and you were visiting him instead of at his place on a farm or wherever it may be, you were visiting him in the ICU unit, and then he dies, your perception changes to real reality then. Really and truly, it's not a test that you go see your granddaddy and everything, he's okay and you're okay. That's not the test. The test is really 230 people have died. And we want to prevent the 231st one from dying. And that's what we're trying to do in everything we can do. It's serious stuff. It's really serious, serious business. Now, let me go to something good. Please, my goodness, please. You know, our nurses work super hard, super hard. And you know, so there's fees that are collected from our nurses, and then they go into a scholarship program and everything. And so if they don't collect the fees, they're not going to be able to figure out how to do the scholarship program. Makes a lot of sense, right? So today I am sending $92,000 to the WVHEPC to fully fund the West Virginia Nursing Scholarship Program for this year. These funds will support the nursing students at colleges and universities across the state. And this fall, the program will award nearly 100 students with scholarships ranging from $800 to $4,000, and this money will go directly to them to absolutely continue to supply us with the supply that we have right now. And what is it? Heroes. Heroes. That's all there is to it. I mean, you think about it. You think about getting up and going and knowing you are walking right dead into the fire. And then you're getting up, you're leaving the fire and walking right back to your children at home. Heroes. Courage. Courage for all of us. Bravery like you can't imagine. It's a good day. It's a good day for me to be able to do that. As far as our school meal waivers and everything, the Department of Agriculture has granted West Virginia the extension of waivers that will allow the Department of Education to continue the summer food service program and the seamless summer option through December 31st of 2020. Now, I'm not going to go through all the aspects of this, but I thank, Sonny Perdue, and I surely thank our president, President Trump. Secretary Sonny Perdue is a great man, as well as our president, and all this will just continue to assure and help our kids, and just think about this. Together with the Department of Education, DHHR, National Guard, the National Guard, the West Virginia School Nutrition Association, and the county nutrition programs, we have provided so far over 16 million meals since March when schools began remote learning. 16 million meals. Congratulations, guys. You're doing good. You're doing really good. The small business grant program continues along and everything, and we're looking now, at farmers and how they apply from the standpoint that they may not have any employees, and we're maybe going to tweak just a little bit there to help them a little more. We've now awarded in excess of $12 million to 3,100 applicants and everything, and we're going to continue to keep rolling with this thing, and the application process ends on September the 30th. The grants for cities and counties have now risen to an excess of $100 million that have been awarded to the cities and counties. 189 cities and counties have applied. They continue to apply, and we're going to continue to send the money out and everything, and that expires on December the 30th as the way it is right now. Our free testing around, that is going on. We have free testing this week going on in Jackson County. Next week we'll be in Logan, Morgan, Cabell, and Raleigh counties. I encourage, especially the minorities, get out, get tested. It's just like what we were going to do with all the players and coaches and everything within the counties. Absolutely, we were, where I stand is one thing. The more information, the more testing we do, the more we learn, the more we're going to be able to protect you in every single way. I just think that this could have been a wonderful tool from the standpoint of, I turned to Superintendent Birch in the briefing because it just hit me for the first time. Not only are we going to obtain, by doing that testing, not only would we have obtained, critical information within those counties that are orange that we could have helped. We could have saved somebody's life without any question. If we would have found out that a kid was positive, or a coach was positive, or a band member was positive, whatever, and we would have absolutely then been able to have prevented them from spreading this to somebody and spreading this to somebody, and God forbid, the possibility of somebody dying. Now, but in addition to that, the pure math of having an abundance, a gigantic abundance of negative cases would have helped us with these counties as far as the color coding, and may have suppressed them down into the yellow and absolutely got us back to school, which was the number one objective. Our summer feeding program, but going back just to conclude that, just what I just said a minute ago is ever so true. The more we test, the better we are. That's all there is to it. The more we test, the safer we are. The more we test, the lesser people we lose. That's just all there is to it. The summer feeding program, if you got any questions in any kind of way and you're in need of food, please call 211. If you don't know how to do this, we've got 696 sites. We'll make it happen for you. We don't want any West Virginians going hungry. West Virginia, you amaze me just how good you are. I mean, I can't recall the number, but right off the, on the tip of my tongue, but I think in the last census, you came in the 62% level or something like that, meaning that 62% of West Virginians were counted. And I could be a little off on that number, but I'm just doing that from memory. I won't be too far off. But I just think, today you are at 94.2% of our residents that have been counted. There you are. You're in second place. Iowa's still kind of whipping us, and they're at 97%. You can push this all the way out to there and everything, West Virginia, where there's 100% of you counted, and maybe we can get I said Iowa, but Idaho, but West Virginia, you've done an amazing job, amazing job. Thank you again to all the team leaders, the street leaders, the community leaders that have helped me get you there. That is really important, and that's going to pay monstrous dividends for 10 consecutive years. That is going to be a gigantic thing for West Virginia, so way to go. Last thing I've got to report on that is just this. My dad was in the Air Force in World War II. Absolutely, my mom, on my mom's side, I don't know the exact number of brothers, but I know at one time, 3 of her brothers, on my mom's side, there was 10 kids. On my dad's side, only 1. On my mom's side, at one time, there was 3 brothers in the war all at the same time. Now, I don't know for sure if that was the Korean War or World War II, so, give me a pass on just that. But I can remember my grandfather saying, he had a big garden, And, they never had indoor plumbing, but they had chickens and everything else under the sun. And he had a full-time job in the mines. And they said to him, how could you possibly do all this stuff? How could you do this with 3 sons, across the seas, 3 sons that were at war all at the same time? How could you do this? How could you keep a full-time job and maintain all that garden and do all the stuff that you're doing? You know what his answer was? I had to. I couldn't have stood it any other way. Those boys being in the war, I couldn't have stood it. So I kept myself busy. and I really, really worked. You know, today is a really important day. Today is when the formal surrender came. You know, like I said before, you know, just imagine this. West Virginia, you know, has had 218,665 West Virginians serving in the armed forces, the 5th highest percentage in the nation. Now, just think about this. 2,000 of those were women. A total of 11 West Virginians were awarded Medals of Honor for their service. A total of 5,830 West Virginians were killed in World War II. And today, churches across West Virginia will ring their bells this evening at 7 o'clock to mark this occasion. This was unbelievable, and it is absolutely such a precious time and precious day for us. And I would hope and pray that every single West Virginian, no matter where you are or no matter what's on your mind, would just take a moment at 7 o'clock, just a moment, to remember all the brave men and women, especially those from West Virginia, that ensured us and gave us our continued freedom. That's all there is to it. We don't speak German today. Absolutely, we're not speaking Japanese today. Absolutely, these brave men and women gave us our freedom. And that's why I say over and over, we owe everything to our great military people. So with that, and I'm sorry I've been so passionate and everything. Well, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. For crying out loud, you know, we're here and we're doing it, and it's an honor, and we're going to continue to do just that.
All right, thank you, Governor. Let's first today go to Clayton Birch, our West Virginia Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you, and Governor, thank you. You know, listening to you speak about World War and reflecting on that, I think got us all grounded in what we're really looking at here. The folks in West Virginia, I enjoy each and every day that I'm here with the governor to listen to him talk about praising our folks in the field. I continue as a state superintendent talking about that one caring adult for each one of our children. And I've seen that a lot this week. The governor may not know this, but you know, those folks up at WVU that he speaks of, I know that we have Dr. Marsh that's with us all the time, President Gordon Gee. I enjoy when, usually weekly, he reaches out, and if you think for a second he's not one caring adult worried about what's going on there, you're mistaken. He, along with Eddie Campbell there, the superintendent. And I was glad to hear the governor mention about two recent events that we heard, both in Mason County with Point Pleasant Elementary, as well as Mingo Central High School. I just wanted to really extend a thank you to Dr. Amjad and Bill Crouch and really the local health departments, because the protocols are there, they followed them, they're working with the superintendents, the school administrators. Those local health departments are doing exactly what we've asked them to do to make sure their investigations make it safe to return, and we're taking their lead. They are the health experts, and I'll come back to that in a second. Oftentimes, the governor doesn't, I try to never let him see me get frustrated very often or upset, and I'm pretty good at that. And I know we're both coaches, and I don't know that my wrestlers have ever seen me get really agitated, but he got to see it a little bit today and got to see a little bit of frustration from me. And I asked him before we went on, is my neck still red? And he said I was good. So the frustration is this. I have 4 boys, and I continually remind my 4 boys, get off your phones. Get off the social media. You guys can't live your lives in the world of social media. You got to listen to people. You got to talk to people. And as a state superintendent, I can't make decisions for the entire state based on social media. It's a voice, and I appreciate that as a one voice. I have 55 superintendents. I've got over 600 schools and principals. I have to talk to them. I have to listen to them. And I trust them. When they give me information, I have to trust them. And my door is always open. My door's been open since day one, March 13th. I've never closed my door. My door has been open to anybody who wants to discuss return to school. And I've appreciated all the voices who have assisted, whether you're a parent advocacy group, whether you are folks representing special needs, whether you're folks representing foster children, whether you're one of our teacher unions or service personnel, my door has been continuously open, and I like to think that I have a very, very good relationship with them. And I've also been very, very clear with the governor and with others that I will not get caught up in any of the political nonsense, because I just have such an important job to get to September 8th for these children. You heard me earlier this week talk about the PPE and face coverings and surveys, and I think I used a term on Monday that said I'm even going to triple check of who needs what. I had a conversation, and I consider a lot of folks my friends. I'm actually a pretty friendly guy, and but I will tell you there's a little bit of a frustration when we continue to hear folks go on and publicly continue to say that our teachers and our schools aren't ready, and that happened today. I am frustrated. I'm personally frustrated because I had a personal conversation with Fred Albert yesterday and others. I've continued to have conversations with Dale Lee, and I appreciate those dialogues. And Joe White, I've continued to say, has been just a great, great friend. But to say that our teachers aren't prepared is just completely false. We have a superintendent here in Kanawha County that I called him after some remarks were made, and I said, "Sir, you personally told me you went around to every school." "Yes, sir, I did, Clayton." I said, "Okay." Called a couple of the principals here in Kanawha County, and one of them's a good friend, and I said, "Mike, you have any issues with anything? Do you need anything?" And he said, "No, sir. We actually filled out your survey you put in." In the first 2 days, 160 principals responded to our survey of needs. Did we find some gaps? You're darn right we did. We actually did. That's the point of dialogue and talking to people. I need to know specifics. I can't make decisions on the what if or we think. I got to have specifics. 13 teachers we received thank yous from to the Department of Education that said, "Hey, appreciate it. We didn't think we had enough of this or that. You worked with us." You know, I'm going to give a shout out. I got a superintendent in Mineral County, Troy Ravenscroft, working with him and his principals. We found a few issues there. There was a gap in materials getting to a particular classroom, not the school. Found it out, and just communicating with principals and the superintendent, we took care of it. We keep checking on the money. Again, the governor reiterates the money, about $91 million, $92 million in funding has gone out to support the schools. Over $100 million in USDA funds to feed our children. I was so glad to hear about those waivers coming through, and that means we're going to continue feeding children through December. Virtual, it doesn't matter. Every child's going to continue to get fed in the state. So we've been working, and I've reached out. Again, when I say double and triple checking, the governor's assured us at no point in time should I be shy coming to him to ask for any dollars that I need, ever should I fear that. He's open. He's asked me to come to him. I'm collecting the information. I've got General Hoyer, Secretary Crouch completely backing us up. We've got over 2 million face coverings stockpiled, ready to be used. We just have to know who needs them. We're ready. I continue to hear that we do have the number one shortage we have right now is for our custodial staff, and that's gloves. And we are thanking General Hoyer for helping us fill that gap. And you know, I cannot thank everybody enough. I'm going to go down the needs of communication. I've also heard that today I was listening, and I really should stay off some of the media myself probably, and I was listening to folks say that, well, we're still not sure. Tuesday begins school, and we don't know the plan. I've seen all the plans. They're actually public, online, they're posted. I've talked to the superintendents, they've communicated them. We actually had superintendents come and talk to Governor Justice, and they talked about how they're communicating, what they're doing in their communities. Protocols, this is the next one. Protocols are now posted. Dr. Amjad and her staff, Dr. Marsh has helped us. There's a statewide protocol if there's a confirmed or suspected case in the schools. Those are public on the West Virginia Department of Education site. I will go back to Mingo, and I will go back to Mason County local health departments You did an outstanding job doing your investigations, your tracing, working with the superintendents. Just outstanding. We're doing everything we can to address the needs. I've listened to the governor day in and day out say there's no game plan. There's no, it's fluid, and I believe that's absolutely true, but boy, we're going to make sure it's safe. Can't thank our principals and superintendents enough, but I'm going to say this. They've got to be diligent. The rules that we put in place are the rules. The color coding system we're looking forward to indicates when masks need to be worn more frequently. We've heard from the SSAC. We know what the rules are for play. We have got to have all of our leaders insisting that these children follow the rules and stay safe. The schools are a reflection of our community. Wear a mask. General Hoyer has actually called me right before we went on today, as he does often about every other day. What do you need? How can I help? We have folks ready to help. Finally, we did identify, and I wanted to come back to this because I did not want the governor he made a statement last week that several of you wrote and indicated. Through our survey, we also found, Governor, 1,500 students we found computers were delayed. And that was true. And if you think for a second the folks at the Department of Education aren't working day and night, they are. Those folks have found a way to get 1,500 computers before the start of school to those children and communities. And we continue to ask, if you have a need, you help. The folks here at the state agencies, our partners, they are unbelievable in a time of crisis. And, you know, on behalf of the principals and the superintendents, I want to thank General Hoyer. I want to thank Secretary Crouch and Governor. I just want everybody to know that there is going to be a time I shy away from. If we need more, I know you'll be there to give it to us. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. Next, we'll go to Dr. Clay Marsh, our coronavirus czar.
Well, good afternoon, and it's always great to be with the good people of West Virginia, and certainly to be privileged enough to be able to serve. You know, the governor, I think, said it really, really well today. We see a lot of swings in what's going on with the spread of COVID-19, particularly around these RT values, these reproduction scores that tell us how fast the virus is spreading. And we said from the very beginning that as we start to reopen West Virginia, as we go to get back to the things that we all love, get back to school, get back to activities, get back and have our businesses open, our beautiful tourism spots open, that it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky living with this virus because the virus is everywhere. It infects people who are, people infect others when they're asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic, so it's hard to define who is sick and who is not. As we come together, if we're not really careful, if we don't do all the right things, then we will spread infection. And we know in our country, about 6 million people today are infected. The state of Iowa has the fastest growth of infection in the country right now. Rural America, Midwestern America is affected by COVID-19. And people are tired. People are really tired of continuing to really focus and make sure that they are wearing masks and staying physically distanced and washing their hands and staying home when they're sick and doing all the things that we know does work. But the governor also said something that really makes me pause. And Clayton Birch, who's done a wonderful job, by the way, he's worked so hard for this state and for our schools and for our children and for our teachers. And he deserves a real debt of gratitude from all of us. But he also said that when we think about the state of West Virginia, with the service mentality, one of the highest states in the country for veterans, for people that served in the wars, where we mine the coal to make the steel, to facilitate the war effort, the Industrial Revolution. We're a place of great community, of kind and good people, and we love each other and we care for each other. And it is time, West Virginia, for us to recommit to doing that. This is where things get hard, as the governor said. but it's not so hard that we can't continue to rally together to help each other. Too many West Virginians are dying. Too much COVID spread is happening, and it is within our capabilities to start to reduce that. We'll test in all of the counties that are yellow potentially going to orange, or the orange counties or the red counties. Please show up, get tested. Bring the children to be tested. We know in the last month, the doubling of the cases of COVID-19 have happened in people under 18. And we know the fastest group to get COVID-19 is in that sort of 20 to 40-year-old age group across the country. So young people are carrying this disease, and it's time for us to help them also recognize not only their susceptibility to getting the disease, but their really crucial role in spreading it. So it is really time, despite us being tired, despite this being a long push, the longest sustained crisis that we've had as a state, as a country, and maybe in the recent times at least as a world, it is time for us to show others what West Virginia is made of. And we all know and believe in the people here, but it is time for us to do the right thing to protect ourselves, to protect each other. And we know, West Virginia, you can do it. And we're calling on you right now to really double down and help get us through this very, very tricky and very challenging time. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marsh. Next to Major General Hoyer with the West Virginia National Guard.
Good afternoon. A number of missions continuing, sanitization missions with the Department of Corrections, South Central Regional Jail preparations for the Mount Olive facility, which will be a significant undertaking, working with Dr. Amjad, Bureau of Public Health, and visiting a number of nursing homes with outbreaks to provide technical support, sanitization support, moving the reusable PAPR systems to certain facilities to help reduce the burn rate for PPE in areas where we have outbreaks, and continuing to support swabbing and testing in nursing homes as well. Working the reconnaissance of 20 sites, working with Department of Education for the rollout of additional Wi-Fi capability. Following the theme that the governor and Dr. Marsh laid out, I just want to reinforce to folks, Memorial Day of this year, only less than 325,000 of the 16 million men and women who served in the United States military during World War II were still with us today. One of those is our own 96-year-old Woody Williams Congressional Medal of Honor recipient, the last remaining Medal of Honor recipient from Iwo Jima. Because of the sacrifices that generation made, those people like my grandparents that I grew up with, we coined them the greatest generation. We owe so much to them, our Korean veterans, our Vietnam veterans, the sacrifices they've made. Again, I would ask on behalf of all those on the front lines of this response, it is time for us to step up and show the greatest generation that we too can make the sacrifices that we need to get through this worldwide pandemic and get West Virginia back to where it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Bill Crouch, Secretary of the West Virginia DHHR, and Dr. Ayn Amjad, our State Health Officer, are also joining us today and are available for questions. We'll now go to questions from members of the media. The first today from Taylor Stuck with the Herald-Dispatch.
Hi all, it's Taylor. Governor, you talked about the orange counties today and their decision not to test. And you said, it could lead to death. So I'm wondering if that's your belief, why not make that a priority to make testing of just all football teams or athletes in our schools, make sure that they're tested before they played? Why not dedicate some funds or something to that to maybe prevent death?
Taylor, I would be I don't know that I can answer this and answer this completely accurately, but I think you've got to know that I'm a real believer that the more we test, the more we learn. And I would be an advocate of testing. You know, the other thing is you could test You could test all the athletes, you could test all the staff and everything today. You'd need to test again, in a matter of weeks and everything. Our testing that we had outlined and everything was going to ensure us for this, basically the balance of this week and everything. And it was going to be a way to be able to help us, towards helping those counties to get down where we could really, not only we could get an incredible amount of information, it could very well have saved lives, but in addition to that, we could do it at a time when we didn't have school and use it as a tool to be able to give us more and more information to help us be able to get back in school. Now, but here's the but of the whole thing, and that is just this. Right now, I do not know if we have the capability to be able to do it and or what is the wait time to be able to do that. We could have done this on a one-time basis. We could have run out and done this and everything and gotten it done. But I don't know that we have the capabilities of doing it, nor do I know exactly what the wait times would be.
All right, thank you, Taylor. Next, we'll go to Amanda Barron with WSAZ.
Hi, everyone. Amanda Barron with WSAZ. My question is, what would the threshold, what would the numbers have to be for you to consider shutting down bars in other counties where there are large college crowds if you see numbers spike? And what kind of work is being done with the higher education chancellor to get the message out to college kids that younger students might not get the same opportunities they had, perhaps as a result of some of their actions?
Well, Amanda, let me jump on the back end and say, I know President Gee came out and really was upset with what happened, in the last couple of days with our bars in Mon County and primarily in the city. From the standpoint of our other presidents and all the people at our higher ed, universities and colleges, I know they're all over this. I know they're trying. And kids are going to be kids, and that's a real issue and everything. But from the standpoint of what threshold, we've got to look at the type of bars, the gatherings, and all this kind of stuff. Counties have different situations and everything, and we're trying to evaluate. We don't have per se bars in certain counties or certain cities that are like the bars that we're talking about, that are happening within the Mon County situation that were happening over the last couple of days. But in every situation we're looking at it, and if need be, that's an area that we would have to shut down. It would be one of the very first things that we shut down, and we're watching it. In fact, Amanda, how good your question is. Just a few minutes ago, I asked my medical team or asked my people within my staff, I said, should we be looking at shutting down the bars in Cabell or Kanawha County? Should we be looking at stuff? It is a constant question that goes on about lots of different things, and not just bars, but a lot of different things. But Amanda, your question was good and point on, but we're on it. We're looking at it.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Next, we'll go to Brad McElhenney with West Virginia Metro News.
Hi, Governor. Hi, Superintendent Birch. Hi, everyone. I'm looking for specifics here, if I could. When I hear Superintendent Birch talk about personal protective equipment, I do hear him say, we've checked 3 times with county superintendents, that we've checked over and over and asked them, discussing communication. And when I hear the leaders of West Virginia's teachers unions, what I hear them say is, we are hearing that there is not enough in school. And so what I wonder is, are there specific lists, school by school, of what is needed for that school versus what they actually have? Thank you.
Okay, before I pass to Clayton, let me just say this, okay? Now, I want everyone to hear, and I want you to hear loud and clear. Every one of West Virginians, you're way smart enough to see the rumblings of a political situation going on. And that's all in the world it is. Because I want you to know, and I'm looking right dead at the camera, I want you to know loud and clear that this state and this Department of Education, that we have the money to do whatever we need to do to make the schools with PPE as safe as we can possibly make them. Now, we've got the money. And the Department of Ed had $90+ million, and they absolutely are perusing all the superintendents and everybody to make sure we've got the money, and then we may get into a technicality where somebody says, to start up. Well, we've got the money to continue on. And if need be, all Clayton has got to do is call me in a second, and we're on it. Now, the other thing is, we've got 2 million masks in inventory, and we've got all kinds of inventory on all kinds of other stuff. We're continuing to buy and buy all over the world all the time. But not only that, we're making stuff. We're making stuff right here in West Virginia. Now look, you can listen to the garbage all day long, but at the end of the day, you know, I can't say any more clear. We've got CARES money that we can move over there if needed, and we stand ready to do it the very split second. Now, I'm going to pass to Clayton on that.
All right, Brad, I actually, I got to collect my thoughts after that. That was good. So I'm going to probably give you the same answer that I gave Fred Albert yesterday. The answer is this. The second part of your question was actually really, really good. You know, anything we feel we don't have, we need to know. It's there. We can get it to them. The second part of the question is, are we collecting a list of items that they may have but think they're going to run out of? Are they worried about if this thing goes on and they're able to stay in person late into the fall, into the winter? And so we're actually beginning to collect that too and say, how long are your supplies going to last, and what do we need to do to make sure if we need them even further on? So the governor's actually spot on when he says, you know, we're stockpiling. As soon as we identified, for example, a glove issue, we had General Hoyer and DHHR step right in and ask us where to fill that gap. Now, I will tell you, I think that sometimes there is a little bit of communication. You know, that we want to make sure the superintendents have been great. I know that I saw pictures out of Raleigh County where David Price, I think, ran out of room of where to put his supplies. He might have ordered just quite a bit, and that's actually a great problem to have. But then on the flip side, we had another county. They were a little upset at the hand sanitizer they were able to get because it wasn't Purell. So that kind of stuff we deal with. But at the end of the day, when the governor says there are supplies, there are supplies. And again, we will continue tracking that just like we did with the computers. Disinfectant, gloves, face coverings, and I'll reiterate again, there's not a person here that won't be there to help us.
All right, thank you, Brad. Next, we'll go to Charles Young with WV News.
Hi, this is Charles Young with WV News. Governor, my question is also regarding the counties in the orange and them, you know, turning down the offer for testing. You said the idea for that was developed over the weekend. Was there communication between state officials and the superintendents in those counties in between? Did they find out about that plan during Monday's press conference?
Charles, I can't answer that, you know, specifically and everything, but the plan, you know, like I said, maybe Clayton could answer more about that and everything, but you know, this plan was put together with 1,000 phone calls and 1,000 meetings with you know, with the Department of Ed, all the health officials, everybody, and really the idea came from the outside. You know, it didn't come from inside, it came from the outside, and then we started vetting it and trying to figure out the best possible way. Now, once we decided, you know, that this looked like a good plan, I'm sure that the superintendents began to get notified and everything, and it possibly because we were having to move so quickly, you know, there may be a superintendent out there that did not get notified, but at the same time, all they had to do in the world is, you know, right as soon as the briefing was over, if they didn't get notified, because keep in mind, what we were trying to do was race out and be able to do it, because when we did it, it was on Monday morning or Monday. Monday, we originally set the briefing up for 9:30, but we had to change because we were still vetting, you know, but with all that, then the reason we had to come out and we had to come out fast was just the simple fact of being able to handle the functionability of the whole thing, because you're going to come out on Monday, you got teams that are going to play really on Thursday and Friday. You've got to do testing, get the results back, and get them those people. And people that were looking at the possibility of rescheduling and everything else. So we had to be able to get the results back to them by Wednesday. It was a great big hurried process, you know, to get the word out. But once the word's out, I mean, for crying out loud, if you've got a problem with the word and you're a superintendent or principals and whatever, all you've got to do is pick up the phone and call and say, please explain this in more detail to me. You know, if you got a problem, that's what we should have been doing. You know, and at the end of the day, you know, really and truly, when it came down, we missed a real opportunity there, a real opportunity, because we could have tested and we could have come up with more information and we could have ensured our kids to be safer, and we could have absolutely helped our counties from a motivational standpoint and whatever it may be. And just the mere number of testing, we could have helped our counties move from an orange to a yellow, and then opened us to be able to have the opportunity to go back to school. There's so many advantages to that we just missed. And we missed really and truly because, you know, a lot of people thought, well, you know, if we do this and we have somebody test positive, which is crazy stuff. If we have somebody test positive, then that may mean that cost us 2 weeks. You know, really and true, or really? You know, if you got somebody that's positive around, they're going to create a situation that is so bad it's unbelievable. You can't take that kind of chance when you have an opportunity to do this. I mean, really? You know, was that not a bad decision? It was a bad decision.
All right, thank you, Charles. Next, we'll go to Kenny Bass with WCHS and Fox 11.
Hi, this is Kenny Bass with Channel 8 and Fox 11 in Charleston. I want to follow up on Charles's question, Governor, and just to kind of hone in on if this situation, and plus I think Taylor talked about it earlier in the news briefing, if this situation is so important and we missed an opportunity to get more knowledge and gauge where we are in these counties and these athletic teams, et cetera, and if the idea was germinating, whether it started over the weekend or came from the outside or inside or whatever the process was that you guys worked through it, in hindsight, if something like this now comes up again, will you learn the lesson of maybe we should have roped these superintendents in on the ground floor to gauge response before making a decision and then sending it out to them, along the lines of having more local control and more local input? I know I've asked a lot of questions about that, but that was the overarching theme early on this restart of school. Local input was going to be a critical factor. So would not have local input from Kanawha and Logan and Fayette been helpful in crafting the type of policy that you talked about on Monday, which you now say we missed a critical opportunity? Thank you.
Okay, Kenny, you know me. I don't have any way to answer stuff other than just answer it just head on. You know, Kenny, we came out on Saturday night at 9 o'clock on Saturday night. We were all on the phone, and we were pushing this thing right up to 3 minutes before it came out. You know, we came out at 9 o'clock on Saturday night. Now, and through Sunday, we actually started working on this at 3 o'clock on Saturday. because I could see, the first thing that came to my mind was, we got a week before school starts, and school is the primary for absolute certainty. And so we got a week. Is there some way that we can use the ability to be able to play and help kids be able to play that have been working really, really, really hard, and coaches, et cetera, and everything else, and not hurt us, in fact, help us towards going back to school? So 3 o'clock on Saturday, that starts. Now, to answer your question, Kenny, should we have brought more people into the fold and try to get more collaboration and everything else? I would say this to you, Kenny, and this is just all there is to it. If I'm a policeman and I'm standing there and 14 people run in and start shooting people and robbing the bank, I may not have time to bring in everybody and anybody. Now, the superintendents are not everybody and anybody, and I got all that. I got every bit of that. But Kenny, when a good decision is made, for us to then say, well, we needed to be consulted with and talked with and everything else. Kenny, in this situation, you may not have time to do all that every single time. This decision to just decide not to do this, not a good decision. From the standpoint of, should we have brought the superintendents in more? I would have loved to. And everything. And if you could go back, sure. But in this situation, you had to act. And what we came up with was a whole heck of a lot better than not doing it. Now, to be perfectly honest, it was misconstrued so many different ways. Well, what if we come up with a false positive? It's going to ruin our whole season and stuff like that. Well, come on. If we come up with a positive, we would have retested. It's hard to come up with false positives. You can come up with false negatives, But from all that standpoint, wouldn't it have been, from the standpoint, we have parents say, we should have a choice in this is what to do. Well, you do. You do have a choice, and the choice is just this. The county's orange. You're either going to have to do something or not play. It's just as simple as that. What else could we do? Just say, go ahead and play? Would that be smart? Well, it wouldn't have been smart. And so we're trying to do what's the right thing, to do one thing, and that is just this. Remember, I've said it 1,000 times. School, education, school, education. That's what it's about. That's what it's all about. And, we had a week. We had a week here. Sports are really important. I'm a coach. I get all that. We had a week, and what we could have done is gained information, and we could have let people play. And by the massive number of tests that we're going to do, we could have absolutely moved the numbers, and helped us towards going back to school too. So that's all I can say.
All right, thank you, Kenny. Next, we'll go to Paul Mullen with WCBC.
Good afternoon, Governor. In the World War II theme, my father was in the river crossing at a bridge too far. Now, the question deals with the CDC numbers that came out and whether they're accurate or not about how many people with comorbidity wind up passing from COVID-19. I wanted to know what the numbers are like in West Virginia with the comorbidity. Is it anywhere close to 95%? If there's a percentage out there, I'd like to know that. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Marsh or Dr. Amjad, one of y'all talk. I'm getting hoarse anyway.
Ian, do you mind if I start?
No, go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. Well, Paul, thank you for the question. We know that having comorbidities, as has been reported in many sort of small studies, whether it's from the CDC or it's from New York City or it was from Italy or it was from China, we know that the older folks are and the more comorbidities, the more likely they are going to have a severe illness, and it puts them at higher risk for dying. We also know today that if you are admitted to the hospital whether you're an adult or a child, your risk of going to the ICU is the same. It's about a 1 in 3 risk, which is really, it should give us a lot of pause, because that statistic would say that although many fewer children would have to go in the hospital than adults, and particularly older adults with comorbidities, but at the same time, a child can get very, very, very ill from COVID-19. So it's not just a flu-like thing, at least in many people. The other thing that we know today is that not only are comorbidities, here thinking about, for children at least, smoking, vaping, taking smoke in your lungs, puts your risk of having a severe problem at about a third higher than if you don't do that. We also know obesity is the second most common comorbidity to have people get severely ill enough to go into the hospital. And we also know that COVID can infect the heart, and that by doing that can cause, problems in people. And more recently, it's been found that there's a lot of people that are called now long haulers that are being affected by COVID-19. And although they may not be dying of the initial disease, they're having chronic problems. And I think that we're going to see more of that. So as we look at West Virginia, we know that today we see, as the governor has every press briefing done, has reviewed the names and the ages of the people that have died since the last press briefing. And we see an acceleration of the number of people that are dying as the part of our state is being affected now with COVID-19, that really is the part of our state that has the highest group of people with comorbidities and an older component of our population. So I think that as we go, you'll see that comorbidities, age, et cetera, do drive the severity of the disease and the deaths from COVID-19. But I would then pass it on, because I'm not sure if we have specific data on everyone who's died, or people that have gotten more severely ill and know exactly the comorbidities with this population.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next, we'll go to...
Come back to me just one second. Paul, thank you so much for your dad, too. I mean, I know you probably think about your dad a lot and everything, but, constructing that bridge was unbelievable. And, I only know about it from the movies and all that and everything, but thank you for your dad, and thank you for your service.
All right, thank you, Paul. Next, we'll go to Mark Curtis with Nexstar Media.
Good afternoon, Governor and Cabinet members. I'm going to read to you a memo that CBS News obtained from FEMA, and this is perhaps concerning, and I'd like to have General Hoyer, Secretary Crouch, and perhaps the Governor weigh in on this too. Again, the headline is FEMA cuts back reimbursements. Much of the basic emergency supplies that school, elections agencies, and other local officials need for COVID prevention will no longer be covered by FEMA under a new policy announced Tuesday. The new interim policy, which goes into effect September 15th, follows what local officials from around the country have said they were told in recent calls with FEMA, that many of the masks, respirators, and sanitizing supplies that continue to be key for coronavirus prevention will only be covered for reimbursement when used specifically for emergency response. Instead, under most circumstances, the agency will regard these items as non-emergency supplies for schools and many other local institutions, and therefore they will not be reimbursed. What kind of financial pickle is this going to put West Virginia and other states in if FEMA is going to stop reimbursing for all these supplies?
Everybody time out. I think I got this. In general, you can weigh in because you haven't spoken a lot today and everything after I get through, but let me just say this. I think other states are in a pickle. I mean, in a real pickle. West Virginia is sitting with a can of whipped cream. I mean, we're not in a pickle. And we've got CARES money, and if we need to spend that CARES money, we'll spend it. But in addition to that, Mark, I want you to know this. I've said this all along. I have absolutely been a believer all along that these dollars would flow. They did. For crying out loud, I was a believer in how we could move the income tax from April 15th to July and it be a real winner. Absolutely, I have believed all this stuff was going to happen, because I got a lot of information. Now, with all that, you know what's going to happen? Sure as I'm sitting here, you're going to still have another stimulus package, and you're going to have a major, major bump in stuff for our schools. But we don't need that, but we'll surely take that, and it'll make it even better and better and better. You know, so General, you can weigh in, you know, but from the standpoint of PPE and the affordability of it and what FEMA does and everything, we appreciate all the great stuff they're doing. But I'm telling you, I think we got this. But anyway, General, go.
Yeah, Mark, as the governor pointed out, we've been given the authority that we need from the governor to purchase PPE in the volumes that we need. Originally, as the pandemic started, our challenge was supply chain and getting that. We've also been given the ability we need to purchase the equipment and the things that we need, supplies to begin to produce our own PPE. So at this point, I don't see a significant issue for West Virginia at this point in time.
All right.
Me just 1 second. And Mark, I want to add this too, that we're going to you know, meet with our committee or you know, from a standpoint of our legislatures and everything later on in the week and discuss, you know, all different aspects of everything, just like we've done in updating, and we've had a lot of these discussions with individuals, but we're going to bring the whole committee back together late in the week.
All right, thank you, Mark. Next, we'll go to Dave Mistich with West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Hi, Governor. Dave Mistich, Public Broadcasting. My question is, you mentioned that, you know, some of the bars in other counties outside of Mon County are not the same as they are up here. I'm curious, are you taking into consideration the idea that some of the bars in downtown Morgantown that are committing these offenses that are not following the rules may not be the situations that are in other bars here in the county? I guess my question is there some way to work it out here in Mon County to where businesses that are following the rules could continue to do so and stay open, and then put, you know, sanctions on those that are not following the rules?
Mark, and who was this? I'm sorry. Dave. I'm sorry, Dave. Dave, you know, we'll continue to look at it and everything, but Dave, it's really, it becomes really difficult when you say, you know, ABC bar, you know, and I didn't mean to pun, but a bar in one area of the county can stay open, and these bars over here have to close. You know, it becomes cumbersome, and it becomes very, very difficult to pull that off. But we'll continue to look at it and everything else. The one thing that's really good is a lot of the bar restaurants per se are serving food and everything, and of course this doesn't affect them. They continue to operate and everything, but we'll continue to look at it and you know and adjust as we need to.
All right, thank you, Dave. Next to Steve Adams with Ogden Newspapers.
Steve Adams of Ogden Newspapers here, and feel like everybody's pretty much tackling the health issue and numbers issues questions I would ask, so I'm going to switch subjects here to budget numbers, specifically August tax revenue numbers, which look like they came in good, just like they did in July. According to Senate Finance Committee, $331.4 million in collections. That's 12.1% more than the estimate. Our year-to-date tax collections are also above estimate so far. I didn't know if you wanted to comment on the revenue numbers. Thank you.
Well, Steve, I appreciate it, but what we're going to do, you know, is we're going to have more of an economic, tomorrow is not scheduled for a COVID briefing, but tomorrow we're going to do an economic press conference and everything, you know, and at that time we've got, I will go over a more accurate detail of the revenue numbers. You're correct in the fact that, a lot, and I think it's great where people, whether it be, Brad at Metro or yourself or whatever that are watching these numbers, and as they come out, because they come out, on their own and all that, you're watching the numbers, and that's really good, because, in this thing, if the economics blow up, then that means there's all kinds of things like PPE for schools or whatever it may be. There's all kinds of things we can't do, services or whatever it may be, for foster children, whatever it may be. If the economics melt down, we can't do it. And so it's great that you're watching that. I think those numbers are the preliminary numbers, and they're marked that way. We'll give you a little more accurate numbers tomorrow, but overall, the numbers in this state are unbelievable, unbelievable. And I could go on and on and on about it, but we'll talk about it tomorrow in more detail, but just to think that July started out at 44 million to the good, and August is almost or right on the heels of July, and in addition to all that, don't forget just this, from a cash standpoint and purely cash standpoint, we're close to $250 million to the good at this time, where with cash, where the same 2 months before we had COVID, the same 2 months, July and August of last year, we had $21 million. So we've got 12 times the money today that we had last year when we didn't have COVID. 12 times, and really and truly, not a dime of that, I don't think, or surely not significant amounts of that is coming from CARES or anywhere like that. Basically, the state is really doing it. And we'll get in more detail about that tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Steve. Next and last today, we have Zach Shrivers with WTAP.
Hi, Governor. This is Zach with WTAP. I have a question about the numbers, specifically up in our region. In our neck of the woods, Pleasants County last week was reported by the state to have had 3 deaths. That is not what we heard from the local health department, and upon reaching out to the DHHR, they ended up retracting that and replacing it back to 2 in Pleasants County. And it's kind of raising the question for us, how are these deaths being reported? Can somebody give us a detailed explanation of how the deaths are reported and how mistakes are made in that process?
Secretary Crouch and Dr. Amjad, this is you guys.
Yes, sir, Governor.
Yeah.
How are deaths determined?
Oh, well, deaths are determined by death reporting. So when someone passes away, whether it's a hospital or a nursing home, we have something called a death report that has to be filled in. And if there's a discrepancy in the numbers, sometimes it has to do whether or not it's filled in if the person is from a nursing home or a regional jail. Those death reports have to be filled in. And we're still having some issues with the reporting that's going into our dashboard at the time. So that might be why if you saw a number go from 3 to 2, they're still trying to have those filled in, whether if they're coming from the nursing home or a correctional facility. So I'm not sure. I think you said Pleasant County. Is that what you said? Or I didn't get to hear you clearly. But that might be why you saw the numbers change, because of the way the numbers are being reported on the dashboard. But there have to be a death report that has to be filled in correctly first before it's cleared up.
Part of that is clear confirmation of the residence of the individual that we get the report on, and trying to reconcile that back to the local health department to make sure it's accurate. So we always apologize if we get that information wrong, and occasionally there will be mistakes in terms of residence and where an individual should be filed or placed in terms of the death. So I'm glad we got that one straightened out in Pleasants County. We will work harder to try to make sure there are no errors.
All right, thanks, Zach. Governor Justice, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, I'll just make this quick and everything, but I go back to this, from the standpoint of our schools, PPE, I think, let me just say this real quick. you know, it's okay for people to cast stones or whatever if they choose to do so at me. I can handle it. That's no problem. You know, it's not okay with me for people to cast stones at the great work that these experts have done. You know, Clayton Birch is doing a phenomenal job under a really tough situation, you know, with the Department of Education. You know, from the standpoint of what Dr. Marsh is doing, General Hoyer and them are just beyond superstars. Dr. Amjad and Secretary Crouch, and it goes on and on and on, and I'm not going to get into all the details of everybody, but they are truly doing absolutely great work. Now, and with that being said, we continue to try to do the very best that we possibly can to ensure the safety and well-being of our people, and plus try to do everything we possibly can to try to help us be able to get back to as normal as we can, whether it be a sporting event or whatever it may be. You know, we try. And we continue to try, and we continue to tweak. Was it a good tweak from the standpoint of when we caught it about the bands, that we were just going to stop the bands from performing, stop the bands from having, and those kids worked just as hard as the greatest athlete out there? Was it the right move? You dadgum right, it was the right move. Now, I'm going to tell everybody just straight up as it can be, don't listen to the garbage that we don't have the money, or that there needs to be more money put into PPE. If there's more money that needs put in PPE, we'll put it in there. That's all there is to it. We have held back CARES money for just being able to do just this kind of stuff. And the National Guard is covering it in every way, as well as the Department of Education and all of our health experts in every way. You know, tomorrow we will have final and accurate revenue numbers. You know, they won't change much from what's already been out there and everything, but it is an absolute great day in West Virginia for another good month. And July and August, starting off this year, have been just terrific. And really and truly, the conclusion of last year with the pandemic, and July and August carrying on with the pandemic, is absolutely good stuff. Now, and in addition to that, we're going to have another major and really exciting announcement tomorrow, and we want you to stay tuned to all that and everything. It's 12:30 briefing time, and I'd end by just saying this. You know, I'm really tickled, you know, when General Hoyer brought up Woody Williams. You know, if you've not had the opportunity to hear Woody Williams speak, Woody Williams, I think, is 96 years old now. You know, a Medal of Honor winner. I guess our last in certain ways in West Virginia today. But now just think about this. If you have the opportunity to hear him speak, it is unbelievable, unbelievable. You know, a 96-year-old gentleman, a Medal of Honor winner that speaks so eloquently, it's amazing. It's amazing. And so good man, good, you know, day today, the end of World War II, surrender, and absolutely the accomplishment of all those incredible, brave men and women. They've given us everything we've got in life. Every time you go to Wendy's, every time you go to pick up your kids, every time you embrace your kids, you know, really and truly, it's because of these great men and women that gave us that opportunity. And so God bless each and every one of them, and thank you so much. I'm done.